So what if I told you that ancient African magic and modern meteorological science were, actually doing the exact same thing? Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today we're bridging the gap between ancient cultural traditions and modern climate science. We're looking at something absolutely fascinating, the intersection of indigenous knowledge and meteorology. We'll be focusing specifically on the incredible rainmaking traditions of societies like the Mumia, the Igbo, and the Balabedu. And as you'll see, we're going to discover how these ancient practices connect directly to modern cloud seeding and even global climate change adaptation.
Okay, let's dive right into this by asking a really profound question. It's one that has literally captivated humanity for centuries. And to be honest, it still drives both ritual and science today. Can humans truly control the weather? Now, for the longest time, the Western world has kind of just viewed indigenous African weather manipulation as mere myth, right? Just magic. But what happens when we look a little closer? What happens when we realize that underneath all those spiritual rites lies a highly observant, deeply empirical science?
Actually, Zuberu, the chief rainmaker, or Kantigiri, of the Mumuye people in Nigeria, he immediately reframes this whole understanding for us. He actively pushes back against this idea of it just being Western magic. Instead, he defines his work through empirical mastery. He points out that this is learned knowledge. It requires a severe apprenticeship, rigorous testing, and a really deep, intricate understanding of local herbs and environmental indicators. It's not just waving a wand, it's a science.
Here is our roadmap for today. First, masters of the atmosphere. Second, knowledge, not just myth. Third, the Balabedu rain queens. Fourth, the science of cloud seeding. Fifth, climate change and drought. And finally, merging tradition with modernity.
All right, let's begin our journey. Section 1. Masters of the Atmosphere. Redefining the Ancient Rainmaker.
So the crucial point here is that we really need to completely redefine this practice. Rainmaking is not some parlor trick. It is an ethno-valued environmental science. Think of it as a system built on intense, multi-generational observation. For example, among the Igbo people, the dibia, or traditional practitioner, engages in this fascinating interpenetration of magico-spiritual and rational elements. They're out there closely observing plant responses, tracking animal behaviors, watching insect movements, and then they combine those natural laws with spiritual invocations to create a full-blown system of atmospheric management. It's brilliant.
Let's see how this builds into the actual methodologies. Section 2. Knowledge, not just myth. Inside the guarded rituals of the Mumuye and Igbo. These rainmakers follow exact, highly deliberate procedures. Step 1. They gather specific botanical items. We're talking about herbs like the jimong or tonkarolmong among the Mumuye, alongside ritual items like kola nut and local gin. Then Step 2 relies on incantations and libations to invoke ancestors and the supreme deity. But Step 3 is where the physical science brilliantly kicks in. They burn these carefully selected materials, creating smoke and particles that ascend directly into the sky to actually alter atmospheric cloud condensation. I mean, how cool is that? This simple but incredibly powerful observation from Reverend Father Eva C. Nimene highlights something huge. The core principle of Igbo rainmaking aligns perfectly with the fundamental laws of atmospheric physics. Think about it. Warm air rises, right? And it carries water molecules and dust particles from the rainmaker's fire up with it. As these particles cool down high in the atmosphere, they act as a catalyst. They combine to form water droplets that eventually fall as rain. The rainmaker is literally introducing elements to trigger that exact combination.
Now we are turning our focus down to South Africa. Section 3, the Balabedu Rain Queens, the matrilineal dynasty of the Mojaji.
Take a look at this timeline. It traces the majestic history of the Mojaji dynasty. Since the year 1800, these mystical rainmaking powers have historically been passed down through mitochondrial DNA, going from mother to daughter in strict matrilineal succession. But notice how the timeline takes a really sharp, dramatic turn in recent years? Yeah, following the untimely death of the youngest queen, Makobo VI, a fierce succession dispute broke out. In 2022, a faction of the royal council actually installed her brother, Prince Lukula, as king. This totally disrupted over 2 centuries of female rule. And as of today, Princess Masalanabo supporters are still challenging this in court, so it's a very complex, ongoing historical shift.
But regardless of that current political crisis, there is staggering physical proof of this legacy that you can literally see. The Rain Queen's royal compound in Ketlakonen village stands as this vibrant, lush oasis right under a spectacular rain belt. And it's sitting right in the middle of the otherwise totally parched Limpopo landscape. It is an ecological marvel.
It features an abundance of the world's largest cycad trees. And get this, one species is specifically named the Mojaji cycad in her honor.
Okay, let's pivot to the modern laboratory. Section 4, the science of cloud seeding. Modern meteorology's answer to atmospheric management.
It is absolutely fascinating to see how these modern steps almost perfectly mirror the traditional practices we just looked at. Instead of an empirical apprenticeship observing local plants, scientists use satellite data. Instead of burning the Jimong herb to send smoke into the sky, they use aircraft or rockets to disperse silver iodide or dry ice. But that final step? It's all about inducing nucleation, so those particles combine with water vapor and fall as rain. They're using high-tech tools to achieve the exact same atmospheric goal the Igbo achieved with fire. It's the same science.
When you place them side by side, sure, the tools look vastly different, but the mechanism? It's exactly the same. Both systems require a really deep study of the atmosphere. The traditional method relies on intensely guarded local secrets and spiritual authority, while the modern method relies on heavy state sponsorship and massive technological infrastructure. But ultimately, both are trying to conquer the exact same problem, figuring out how to get the sky to open up.
But what happens when the very climate these rainmakers rely on begins to shift unpredictably? Section 5. Climate change and drought. The modern crisis facing traditional knowledge.
Today, traditional rainmakers are facing a staggering existential crisis. As global warming completely distorts the seasons, the old indicators are failing and communities are really suffering. We have reports coming out of Kasese, Uganda, where a prolonged drought caused crops to just completely wither away. The youth there, desperate and facing famine, actually threatened violence against a local rainmaker. They blamed him for the lack of rain and forced him to seek police protection. It's tragic. Add to this the growing religious pushback, labeling these practices as fetish, and the reality that this highly secretive knowledge just isn't being widely documented. We are looking at the potential extinction of this heritage, and with it, a massive blow to localized climate resilience.
Let's dive into our final section, where we actually find a potential solution to all of this. Section 6. Merging tradition with modernity. Collaborative forecasting for a changing climate.
The future of climate adaptation is already happening right now in Kenya. Rather than fighting over who is right, the Ngani rainmakers are actually teaming up with modern meteorologists. They're combining their traditional indicators like, the migratory patterns of bees, the blooming of specific trees, termite swarms. They're combining all of that with advanced satellite data. They hold these workshops together to develop accurate consensus forecasts. And then those predictions are broadcast out to local farmers via community radio. It is a brilliant, life-saving synthesis.
So, by validating and mainstreaming this indigenous heritage into national climate response plans, we achieve a dual victory. We literally save both the culture and the crops. Respecting the empirical knowledge that African rainmakers have gathered over centuries doesn't weaken modern science at all. Actually, scratch that. It makes it far more accurate. It makes the data highly localized, which directly impacts and protects global food security.
I'll leave you with this provocative thought to ponder. If rainmaking, something dismissed for so long as pure magic, holds genuine scientific utility for climate adaptation, well, how many other ancient myths might actually hold the key to modern scientific adaptation and our survival? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and absolutely keep exploring the incredible knowledge hidden in our history. Catch you next time.